Hi, it's Jordan1, and today I'll be showing you how to make this really sweet little oak leaf. So I made these to go along with my acorn that I had done in a previous video. So I'll show you some examples of those. I made one with a little happy face, and then I made some plain ones. So I think they go really great together. And you can see I have different examples. I did a smiley face on this leaf. The orange one here is the one I'm going to be showing you today, and I will show you just briefly how to add these veins in. And if you wanted to, you could just leave it plain the way that this darker red one is, or you can add the veins the way that I will show the orange and then also the green. We're going to begin by making a chain of 16. So I have my 16 bands here. I'm going to treble the first one on my hook. So you're just putting it on, twist, put it back on, twist, and back on again. So you'll have 3 loops. And then you're just going to take one at a time. You're going to get this tripled band to go into the center and get the other end back on. So now it's just a matter of doing one at a time, just pulling it through and getting the other end back on. So this part's actually quite simple, and probably most of you, if not all of you, already know how to do this. And if you notice that your hook's getting caught up at all, when you're pulling through, if you pull down on this piece that you're building, it does help your hook to glide through pretty smoothly. So here's our last one. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the band that's closest to the end of your hook and just pull it through the other one. So it's basically making a slip knot, but don't pull that tightly, just leave it nice and loose. In row 1, you'll need 32 bands, and what we're going to do is just work our way down one side, doing 1 single crochet in each. We'll do 3 singles at the end here where our tripled band is, and then we'll just work our way back up. So normally you would want to go through both loops from front to back, push your hook through. But for us, what we're going to do is just go through that first loop, because I want the upper side of the leaf to have that ridge in the center. So I'm only going through that very first loop, front to back, pull through, get the other end back on. You have 3 loops, 1 through the other 2. So you're moving to your next one, again just that 1 loop, the one closest to you, pull through, back on, and through. So you will find it's a little bit loose feeling, but don't worry about that. So we're just going down doing 1 in each. Just try as you're doing it not to pull too tightly. Just keep the bands on the loose side. Don't put too much tension on them. And don't worry if it starts to curl. You can see here that it's kind of curling and doesn't look very smooth, but we will address that later. Once you get a couple rows on, it definitely straightens itself out. So we're going to work all the way down to the bottom. Whoops, missed it that time. And then when we do get to the bottom here, you have that tripled band. So it is going to be tight. We're going to work 3 singles into this. So from front to back, I'm just pushing through those 3 loops. Make sure you get through all 3. So here's my first single, and then I'm going back through those 3 loops again. So that's my second, and then one more time. So it's naturally going to curve around this. So now we're going to be coming up the other side, and if you want you can take a second and straighten this out. And now we're also going to be just going through that one loop, the one that's closest to you. We're still going from front to back, and we're going to just work our way up this opposite side. Let me just move these over a little bit. So I wanted to just do these bottom loops because when we turn it over you'll see what I mean by that ridge in the middle. I thought it just gave it a unique look. And then when we get to the top, we are going to do one in that end stitch as well. So I have one left, and I'm here at the very top, and I am going to go into this as well. So now if you look at the top here, it technically isn't really a stitch, but we're going to make it one. If you look over here, I'm going to go under this sort of false stitch here that we made by making our slip stitch, and I'm going to create that extra stitch. So now you can just straighten this all out, and if you flip it over, you'll see this little ridge that we made. In row 2, you'll need 12 bands. We're going to do 12 single crochets down the one side. So you do want this wrong side to be facing you, and the right side would be where this ridge is that we made. So you want this opposite side, and we're going to work our way down through the next 12 stitches. So we're starting here at the top. I'm going to go through both loops of the stitch and do that single, and then you'll just work your way down doing one in each. So we're not going to go all the way down to the bottom because we want to have the stem of the leaf, so that's why we're stopping at the 12th one. So I have my last 2 here. And so you should still have 3 stitches going down this side that are going to remain empty. You'll need 10 bands for row 3, and you can see this is where we left off. We had the wrong side facing us, so now what you need to do is flip this over so that the right side where the ridge is facing us. And so since we flipped this, now this wrong side is away from us, but we still need to have our hook going in through that side. So what I'm going to do is take my hook and I'm going to be pushing from back to front this time. So you can see I sort of untwisted this. You want the band to be nice and straight here. And this end stitch where my band is coming up through is the first one. So from back to front, I'm going under both loops. Taking that first band, it comes through, back on, do that single crochet. So it's really the same technique, it's just the direction of your hook is changing. So I know this might feel a little bit awkward to you at first, if you're not used to doing this stitch. I believe when you go from back to front, it's called a crab stitch. And we are doing just 10 because we don't want to go all the way to the top. We want to leave a little bit left over that's going to be sort of that point at the top of the leaf. And you can see here how the piece that I've formed is sort of curling. But again, you don't need to worry about that because it will straighten itself out and lay pretty flat for you. So we have 3 left here. And then here's my last one. And again, you can see how it is just shy of the top. In row 4, you're going to need 14 bands. And this is where we're going to start to do some increases and some slip stitches to form the rounded edges of the leaf. So you want to turn your work so that the wrong side is facing you. And since we've done that, we're going to change our direction, so we're going from front to back again. So on this very end stitch here where the band is coming up through, you're pushing through from front to back. You're doing a single crochet. Then moving over to the second stitch, we're going to do an increase. So we'll do our first one, and then we're going through a second time, and this time we are going to do a slip stitch. So what that is you pull through the stitch, but you also pull through the one on your hook, get the other end back on, so this time you're left with just 2 of the loops, and one pulls through the other. Now here's where I do something that's a little unorthodox or just a little bit maybe out of the ordinary. What I'm going to do is take my hook out of that. I'm going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to push my hook through just the one loop from front to back, and I'm going to pick up this loop again. Just try and make sure that it doesn't come apart on you. And I'm going to pull that through to the back. So that's what's going to help make that half circle shape. And then I'm going to skip the next stitch and go into the next one. But the problem with doing that is we can't pull this down because it will make your leaf go inward there. So we're going to have to put another band in, sort of hidden on the back side, just to help this not pull too tightly. So what I'm going to do is where this next stitch is, I'm skipping it in the actual stitch, but I'm just going to go through a band on the back here. Just go under one of those loops. I'm going to take this next band and I'm going to pull through everything, get the other end back on, and one through the other. So now we're going to go to this next stitch down. So remember, if you look here, the one stitch is where we pulled the band through to the back. We're skipping the next one. It should be pretty much parallel to where we did that hidden loop, and we're going down to this next stitch. So I know that part might be a little bit confusing, but that's the best way that I came up with to get the shape that I wanted. So now we're doing an increase in this next stitch. So there's one, and then back through for a second. I'm going to the next stitch and I'm doing another increase. So the first one is regular, but that second one is going to have the slip stitch. So through the stitch, through the loop, back on, and one through the other. So now here's where I want to connect this to the leaf, so I'm going to take this off, going to that next stitch down, pushing from back to front just through the one loop. Get this back on my hook and pull this through. And now I'm skipping the next stitch, but I do need to lengthen my band, which is why I'm going to go underneath a piece on the back, pull this through both, back on, one through the other. So I'm skipping that stitch that's parallel to where I just made that, and I'm going to this next one down. So hopefully everybody's getting the hang of that part. I know it's a little bit confusing, so I'm going through that next stitch 2 times for an increase. This is going to be our last little half circle part for our leaf. And then in the next one, it's a little bit tight. We're going to be doing an increase in that. And with the second one, we are doing that slip stitch. So through everything. And then I'm going to this next stitch here, down below. I'm going to just push through that one on the back, get the loop on, pull through to the back, and then it's just a matter of going through a stitch here, taking another band here to do a nice and tight slip knot. And then we just need to hide this on the back. In row 5, you'll need 12 bands, and basically what we're doing is just completing the other half of the leaf. So we're starting at the top. You want the right side to be facing you. If you look at the very top here, there's a band that is over to the left, but it's coming basically from the tip. You're skipping that one and you're going to the next stitch. So you're pushing from back to front, and we're going to do 12 single crochet, working down towards the stem. So again, it's always back to front for this row. So again, it might feel a little bit backwards to you. I know it does to me at least. And again, I see that it's curving a little bit at the bottom, but once we get these next couple rows on, it'll be just fine. Now here's my last one. And then if you look at your leaf here on this side, you should count 3 empty stitches at the bottom. You'll need 11 bands for row 6. So we're turning this so the wrong side is facing us, and we're going to do 11 stitches going back up. So you are going in this end stitch where your band's coming up through. This time we're going from front to back. So we really are getting down to the end here. We'll only have one more row to do, and it's going to be the one that makes the curves on the outer edge. So here's my last one. In row 7, you'll need 14 bands, and this is our last row. So we're just mirroring this opposite side here to make our curves. So you do want the right side facing you, and we're going from back to front. So in this end stitch, I'm going through and I'm doing 1 single crochet, and then in the second stitch I'm doing the increase. So the first one is regular, and then back through that same one, and this time I'm doing the slip stitch. In this next stitch is where I'm going to pull this loose loop to the back, so I need to take my hook out, go from the back just through that one loop, and then I need to grab this loose loop, pull through to the back. And then I'm skipping this next stitch, but remember we need to get our band to be more lengthened, so I'm going through a stitch on the back. This is where I'm going to pull through this one that's going to be hidden. And then make sure you're skipping that stitch on the front side here. You're going to that very next one down, and we're going to do an increase, and then another increase, first one regular, and second one a slip stitch. And now again I'm going to the next stitch, just go through that back band, grab this again, pull through to the back, and then parallel to that next stitch, go through a band, pull through everything, one through the other. So you're skipping that stitch, go to the next one, and we have an increase. So one and a second, and then another increase, first one regular, second one a slip stitch, and then again in that next stitch I'm going to go through, get that loop to go to the back, and then we have just one left that's going to tie this off, so just go through a band or two on the back, make your nice and tight slip knot, so make sure it's not going to come apart, nice and tight. And then again, it's just a matter of going through a bunch of loops on the back here to hide this. So you can go through as few or as many as you'd like, and then your leaf is complete. So you can take a second and kind of curl these out, get them shaped how you like. Now if you want to add some veins to your leaf, you'll probably need somewhere around 36 bands. So I'm going to start in the center here. I will be working from the front side. I'm going to go into this top sort of chain here at the ridge. I'm going to go down through, and I'm going to push out through the next one over. I'm going to take my first band, just going to come through, back on, one through the other. Now I'm going to go down through that same chain that I just came up through. Go to that next one. So you're going to pull this band through, back on, so you have 3 loops, 1 through the others. And now you want to see where your side veins would come in. So I'm going to let go of this for now. If you want, you can add a clip to it just so it doesn't come apart. And I'm going to take the side veins and bring them from the outside in. So that way we're not going to have a lot of loose bands to deal with. So I'll start over here on the left, and I'm going to go into one of the openings towards the edge of this first little half circle. I'm going to do that same thing. I'm pushing down, and then I'm coming diagonally down, and I'm going to come back out that next hole. Take my next band, it's going to pull through, back on, and 1 through the other, and then back down the hole I just came up, go down to the next, same thing, pull through, back on, 1 through the other 2, and then one more time here, down through, and I'm going to come up through the chain, and I'll take my last band here for this little part, and now let me just grab a clip here. So I'm just going to put this on here so this doesn't start to come apart. So now I want to do the same thing for the opposite side. So I'm going to come kind of diagonally out from this. So I'll start on this outer edge, and I'll just work my way diagonally down into the center. So I'm basically trying to mirror that opposite side. So I'm going to have 3 bands on this side as well. And they're going to meet in that same spot. And now let me just take this clip off of the top one, and I'll add it to the one that's on my hook. And now I'm going to put my hook back through this one in the center. I'm going to go down to this next one, so down through, back up, and now in this next one here, that's where my center veins, or my outer veins, are meeting in the center. So I'm going to go down through and come back up through that opening. But now what I'm going to do is to take the band from one side, get it on my hook, also from the other side, and now I'm going to take my band, so it's going to come through those 2 orange, and it is a little bit tricky sometimes to get them to go through, and then it's going to come under the center, get the other end back on, and slide through. So what that's done now is just connected that in the middle without having a lot of extra loops to have to tie off. So now I'll go down through to the next in the center, and then let's see, I think I'll do one more. And then again, let me just grab a clip to tie this off for the moment. And I'm just going to repeat that again with these next side veins. So I'm going to go right here, and it's totally your judgment call on where you want to go as far as the placement. There's usually more than one option. So there's one, there's a second, And then in this third one, going to the center. And then I'm repeating that on the opposite side. So there's 1, 2, and then into that same chain in the center. So now I'll just move these clips around. Let me just hold that on my hook for a minute. So again, I'm going down and back up. So now my hook is where these two met in the middle. And I'm going to take this one off and take this one off. And now I'm going to bring my next band through those 2 loops. Then under, back on, and through. So I'm just going to continue on doing that same pattern. I'm going to do a set of veins for this last part. I'll go all the way down to the bottom, and then I'll just tie that off. So I am just going to fast forward here. Now I'm down to the end here, and I have 2 bands left, so I'm just going to go down and then back up through here. And then what I'm going to do is take my hook out. I'm going to reach back up through this tripled band at the end, and I'm going to get that loose band and pull it through to the back. So I'm going to take one more band. It doesn't really matter which color you use. You can use this darker orange or the lighter. I think I actually will choose to use this lighter. And just go through a band or 2 on the back. Make that really nice and tight slip knot. Tie that off. And then the last thing you're going to have to do is just to hide this. So just go through a couple here on the back. And again, you can sort of straighten this out, do some adjusting if you feel like you need to. But then your veins are complete. And another thing that you can do is to add a face to your leaf. So for this one here, I just used my 6mm beads and a couple of black bands. I strung my beads onto my band using a twist tie, and then I just tied them off in the back using slip knots. So that's another option. I hope that everyone loves their new little oak leaves and they get you in the spirit for fall. You can leave comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures to my Facebook page. I always love to see what everyone has made. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you'll be the first notified when I have new tutorials available. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to leave comments, pictures, and subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!